This is our fifth video on Reconstruction, and it bears the sad title, Essential Failures. So there were some early successes. There were also many early failures in Reconstruction. Probably the worst one was the putting in place of what are called black codes, which differed from region to region and village to village. But in general, they're ways to try to return to pre-war status for black people. There's no black public schools. There are terrible race riots break out where white people beat and shoot and stab black people en masse without many repercussions. The beginnings of the nightmare of lynching happen in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War. The Ku Klux Klan is founded in an effort to terrorize black people and keep the status quo from prior to the war. And then you just have a lot of the same racist white guys who were in office before the Civil War are again in office after the Civil War. And that's obviously a huge problem, because all they learned, most of those guys from the Civil War, was that they lost. They didn't magically become enlightened about race relations. And here's just a sampling of some of the black code rules. Again, there are many of them and were different in different places, but they got as bad as you can't leave your plantation, or if you're caught without an ID, or if you're viewed by a police officer as idling, you could be fined $50, or and which of those guys is going to have $50? So it becomes the beginnings of the mass imprisonment of black men in the United States, an issue that plagues us to this day. So it's important that we think this through, because you've got these Southerners saying, you know what, we're our own culture. Again, they're saying the same stuff they said before the Civil War. We have a state. We get to do what we want in our state. And, we want it this way, and we want these rules and these laws, and you can call them black codes or whatever, but these are laws that we're deciding to have, and that's the way that goes. And we need to think through the logic here. So what's the problem in the South after the Civil War? What's the main problem going forward? It's the oppression of black people and the attempt to keep them in the condition they were in before the Civil War started. What's the cause of that problem? Well, it's violent and virulent racism. And so the rationalization is states' rights. We have a right as a state to do what we want. That's the rationalization, and this is what we want, therefore, right? But again, there's this truth, right, that the country's founded on, that all men are created equal. And so the solution to this issue is to protect human rights. That's the solution. And so this is the big issue with Andrew Johnson that gets him in tons of trouble, and really is the backdrop of him almost, getting thrown out of office. The radical Republicans and even the moderate Republicans realize that all men are created equal. That is a federal guaranteed right. It's a cornerstone of the United States. So, this question of, can a state decide on its own not to treat men equally in the United States? And the answer to that is no. And that's the reason that they overrode all of Andrew Johnson's vetoes and they sent the troops down there, right, to the South. The troops will enforce the federal law at the local level. That's what's going on. And that's what's had to happen, as we will see. So in many ways, we've got the same problem that we had before the Civil War started. You have white Southerners who are claiming that states have the rights to do what they want, and the vast majority of the rest of the population in the United States thinks, actually, no, that's not true. So let's brush off our old knowledge of the Revolutionary War and the Declaration of Independence and get back to that claim, that there's inalienable rights that men have. And so the question then is, what does inalienable mean? And that means that they can't be taken away. They are inherent in being a man, that you have these rights, so that no state can take them away. So it's going to help us to think about, as we think about what inalienable means, it's like, what is the purpose of rights in the first place? The purpose of rights is to protect the individual from the tyranny of the majority. So America has majority rule, but remember, the Bill of Rights was put there in the Constitution. They realized, the majority at the federal level might pass laws that are really abusive to individuals. And so we had the Bill of Rights at the federal level. Well, now the states are claiming the right to have their own say. And so, again, the idea of inalienable rights means that the rights don't come from the state in the first place. So a state can't take them away. These are rights that men have as men. So these rights can't be taken away by a state. So takeaways for this video: name 6 early failures of Reconstruction. What are black codes? And explain the case for how the solution to the problem of Reconstruction had to be the enforcement of human rights in the face of claims to states' rights, and how that failed.